So someone named Owen Winter said political violence in the US is down from its peak in 2018, 2019. And this guy, Lomez, I don't know who Lomez or Owen Winter are, but Lomez here said, this chart from The Economist that purports to show an overrepresentation of right-wing violence was made from a dataset compiled from a self-identifying Antifa activist named Michael Loadenthal. It is absurdly funny how brazen they still lie about this stuff. And they lie about it because most people aren't going to actually check into it, right? They're gonna see this and just be like, wow, it's a statistic, it's gotta be true. Why, yes, of course all political violence is right-wing. I am a professor. This is the face of... I only tell the truth. Would this face lie to you, chat? Why does this man have a fucking whore bull ring in his goddamn nose? Have some self-respect, you fucking freak. He describes himself as militant Antifa, just a total loon. In 2021, Loadenthal spoke at a white nationalism workshop and an extremism, rhetoric, and democratic precarity roundtable at the university's Social Practice of Human Rights conference. During the white nationalism workshop, Loadenthal introduced himself by stating that he is militant Antifa. He then continued his talk by teaching audience members how to securely dox people to their employers. He detailed how he uses a VPN, burner phones, encrypted communications, and sock puppet accounts to dox people. What a swell guy! Meet the violent anarchist behind DHS's pyramid of far-right radicalization scandal. This is from June 1st, 2023. The Biden administration has weaponized the Department of Homeland Security to target political opponents. Last week, the Media Research Center published a report gleaned from Freedom of Information Act requests that show how the Biden administration has weaponized the Department of Homeland Security to target political opponents. DHS provided $352,109 in grant funding to the University of Dayton's Prevents OH Counter-Extremism project. The grant application was based in part on the work of openly anarchist Antifa-affiliated Michael Loadenthal, a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Cincinnati who, by his own admission, is a far-left violent extremist. Well, now that Antifa is designated a terrorist organization, and he also admits himself that he is a far-left violent extremist, is there actual cause to arrest him for terrorism now? Is that how that works? In 2021, Loadenthal spoke at a white nationalism workshop and an extremism. We read this, the securely doxing people. That was the paragraph in the screenshot. Throughout the talk, he framed his work in explicitly anti-fascist terms, explaining how he employs anti-fascist intelligence to dox individuals online and in real life. He detailed what anti-fascists do with that information. We contact employers, landlords, commanding officers, school officials, family, clergy, and we pressure service providers like PayPal, GoFundMe, Patreon, Amazon, and people will kick people off. When you see leftists crying about freedom of speech, a la Jimmy Kimmel getting his show canceled, or when people on the right are finally fighting back and getting people fired for celebrating an assassination, you should probably link them this article. Because this is like, the leftist who lies won't fucking care, but everybody else looking in will have more information on just how insidious these people were. When asked during the question and answer section how people can help his work, he stated, "Donate money. We have defense funds because we get into trouble. A lot of the things we're doing are illegal. A lot of it involves breaking the law. Well, someone should send in a tip on this guy." Loadenthal's talk is a naked attempt to launder Antifa tactics of online harassment, doxing, deplatforming, and illegal activity to make them sound academic. The danger of mainstreaming these violent extremist tactics became glaringly obvious in Loadenthal's second presentation at the conference. His talk on extremism, rhetoric, and democratic precarity opened with an image entitled "The Pyramid of Far-Right Radicalization." In it, he presented a taxonomy of the far right, which implies a pipeline from mainstream conservatism to violent extremist terrorism. He stated, "This is the modern far right as articulated by what I think are some smart folk. We have a tiered system here between mainstream conservative on the bottom, what is falsely called the alt-light, and what used to be called the alt-right, which has been abandoned as a term. And when we look at the top, accelerationists and folks who are engaging in violence." Ooh, this is a big thread, goddamn, okay. I didn't expect there to be video clips.
So again, just real quick, just to start with the taxonomy, because some people aren't as familiar. You know, this is the modern far right, as articulated by what I think are some smart folk. We have a tiered system here between mainstream conservatism on the bottom, what is I think falsely called the alt-right, what is used to be called the alt-right, which has kind of been abandoned as a term, and then what we look at the top, accelerationists and folks who are engaging in active violence, not street brawling, but you know, bombs and guns or whatnot. I'm really focused on the top tier. This is who we work to observe, undermine, disrupt.
So on the bottom, it just has like the Heritage Foundation, Fox News, American Conservative Union, the actual elephant. Tier 2 is like Breitbart, PragerU, Quillette. I don't even recognize that. The Punisher logo? I don't even know what that is. I can't tell if that's the actual Make America Great Again hat or if that's like a parody of it. I don't know. And then you go up from Breitbart and PragerU to like the Daily Stormer and an actual swastika and the Kekistani flag? Question mark? What? What? And then up here, I guess the next slide, they have this weird overlapping pie chart thing that has fascist, white power, accelerationist, incel, trad life, boogaloo, and alt-right all overlapping. Seems a tad muddled. I don't know, that's a little weird. That's a little strange. Maybe some more of these will have, like, interesting information. Oh, he's the one that wrote the article. This is the guy that wrote the article. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Guy. The fact that Quillette is up there is hilarious. I don't even know what Quillette is. Loadenthal did not give a citation for the image during the conference, and when Fox News asked him to clarify its origins, Loadenthal was not able to point to the source materials for greater context. He told them he believed it was authored around 2018 and that he found it a helpful conceptual scaffolding and used it. He's like, I don't even know where the source material comes from, but I believe it. Oh my god, these people. It came to me in a dream. In other words, Loadenthal grabbed the first image that reaffirmed his political beliefs and used it, not knowing any of the deeper concepts, if any, that went into its design. If an undergraduate student did that in a presentation, he would receive a failing grade. Imagine. Aside from an implied pipeline from mainstream conservatism to violent extremism, the placement of different groups and media outlets on the pyramid is ludicrous. For example, in the second rung of the pyramid, the alt-light tier, centrist news outlet Quillette is placed alongside the Proud Boys and InfoWars. So should Quillette writers as supposed members of the alt-light be doxxed, harassed, and fired? Yes, apparently. If Loadenthal appears to have a tenuous grasp on academic research and seems more like an activist than an academic, that's because he is! His academia.edu account might look impressive at first glance, but a review of published academic papers quickly reveals a lack of reliable academic research. He employs a full grab bag of buzzwords to get around the pesky methodology section of academic writing. His research methods include using a scavenger methodology, as practiced by queer linguist William L. Leap, to explain why far-left eco-extremists are good, but far-right eco-extremists are bad. How about all eco-extremists bad? A discourse analysis and auto-ethnography to justify Antifa rioting, and a Foucaultian analysis of disciplinary power to justify far-left eco-terrorism. People like Loadenthal are the reason why the science landscape is such a mess full of unverifiable claims. All these people making up stuff just to make it big, true and real. Often, he doesn't even bother to employ a methodology, as in othering terrorism, a rhetorical strategy of strategic labeling, where he makes the case that the term terrorism is racist, based on a review of the movie Black Hawk Down. This, sadly, is not an exaggeration. All his papers are personal political screeds, influenced by his activism, reliant on highly subjective methodologies and anecdotal evidence. You know what's really funny about him having a paper called Othering Terrorism, a rhetorical strategy of strategic labeling, and he's trying to say Black Hawk Down is like some kind of racist whistle or some shit, is the fact that we have spent nigh 20 years, almost at this point, with the left labeling anyone who disagrees with them a Nazi or a pedo or a white supremacist or some other type of terminology that would get them fired from their jobs and ostracized. So he's quite literally just writing about the tactics his side uses while trying to make his political enemies look like the bad guys. Further listed as academic output on his ResearchGate profile is a 2018 interview with violent militant anarchist collective Crimpth Inc., in which he confirmed he is a militant anarchist. During the interview, he stated, "We can see some success recently in the more mainstream acknowledgement of the effectiveness of militant anti-fascism." Loadenthal is explicit. He praises the mainstreaming of militant anti-fascism and rioting. For Loadenthal, these are not empty words. He has been arrested numerous times for his activism. Though his Twitter account is currently locked, I possess an archive of all of his tweets pre-2019. Damn, this guy is crazy. As Loadenthal is featured in my peer-reviewed research on Antifa on Twitter. The research identified him as one of the most Antifa-embedded academics in the United States. Someone ping the FBI. On Inauguration Day, on January 20th, 2016, there was massive premeditated rioting and property damage caused by anarchist and Antifa groups in Washington, D.C. Loadenthal's tweets from that day show that not only was he there, but he was arrested with Black Bloc Antifa. In fact, he found it funny, writing in one tweet, "This is the slowest mass arrest I've ever been a part of." Not bragging, but I've been through a few. Hashtag DisruptJ20, hashtag Washington, D.C. If I was this guy and I had like a metric fuck ton of archives on this dangerous Antifa radical, as soon as that like executive order designating Antifa as a terrorist organization went through, I would have been on the FBI's website dumping everything I had on this guy immediately. Brazenly, Loadenthal used the experience of being arrested that day to write another article, arguing that empiricism and objectivity in academia are bad, and that action-centric, emancipatory-focused approaches, like activism, should be the basis of academic publishing. Once more, he is attempting to normalize illegal Antifa activities within academia. That's true. Empiricism and objectivity, definitely bad. Those are such bad things, you wild lunatic. It seems impossible that the University of Cincinnati would still employ an openly violent extremist Antifa anarchist who was arrested during the 2016 Inauguration Day riots. It seems impossible that the University of Dayton would give him a coveted speaker position to teach conference participants how to dox, harass, and deplatform political opponents, while openly stating that his work is illegal. And most of all, it seems impossible that DHS would give the University of Dayton more than $350,000 in grant funding to combat domestic terrorism based in part on the work of this violent domestic extremist. Yet here we are. The only obvious conclusion is that DHS has been thoroughly weaponized by the Biden administration against centrist and conservative Americans. And I would love to agree with this guy that it seems impossible, but this just seems par for the course. Once again, the long march through the institutions was decades ago. Probably either before this guy was born or when he was a baby. Like, they had already been fucking captured at that point. Someone named Sean Hendricks here. Just repost this on any leftist post crying about Jimmy Kimmel. It should shut them up. It won't. But at least it shows how much this is all just an act, fake outrage. They are beyond pathetic. This is a very fun watch. I don't know what it is, so let's watch it together. Are you mad about Jimmy Kimmel getting canceled? Let's rewind a bit.
Twitter banned the president permanently. Oh, damn! They took away his precious.
Well, Facebook upheld their ban of Donald Trump today for at least another 6 months.
It is so funny to watch the Trump supporters and the Republicans melt down over Tucker Carlson getting fired from Fox News.
Tucker Carlson is out at Fox News. Couldn't have happened to a better guy.
Fox News Media and Tucker Carlson have
It's all
agreed
fake
to
outrage,
part
man.
ways.
Fox News has severed bow ties with Tucker Carlson after all these years.
They evaluated whether or not Trump's tweets violated Twitter policy. They said, no, we could just label it as incitement to violence anyway to get the job done.
Donald Trump's Twitter account just got suspended. Now, the first thing that we need to know
is that the horse fucker?
very, very funny. And even with Twitter, you cannot find actual evidence of any direct government censorship of any lawful speech.
Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg claims he was pressured by the White House to censor content related to COVID-19 during the pandemic.
And direct law enforcement to counter this extremism. We will hold social media platforms accountable.
And when you look at what Tucker Carlson and some of these other folks on Fox do, it is very clearly incitement of violence.
There are Americans who are engaged in kind of propaganda, and whether they should be civilly or criminally charged would be a better
Bleach in the hard drives.
Stop Tucker Carlson from going on tonight now that he's seen how he's perverted and slying the truth.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
Our democracy. That's funny. That's a great thing that somebody put together all those clips. Holy shit. It's going to be an uphill battle to attempt to purge commies from the institutions, because they're going to attempt to use any kind of principle that we should be giving to our fellow citizens against us, even though as soon as they get into power, they would just get rid of all that garbage. They just don't care. He said, there's a Sweet Baby Inc. talk today at the Game Devs of Color Expo. They've been more careful about scrubbing recordings lately, but this topic looks hilarious if we can dig it up. And unfortunately, I looked into it and you can no longer buy tickets. If you had a ticket, you could look at stuff online. They will be uploading stuff to YouTube eventually. I don't know if he managed to get a recording of anything. But over here, the screenshot that he had is from this page, September 16th to 19th. Game Devs of Color Expo. Learn directly from industry leaders. And the sessions at the 2025 Expo were Achievement Unlocked, Diversity Success, Ain't I a Game Dev? James Baldwin said to be relatively conscious is to be in a state of rage almost all the time. And that is especially true for black women in game development. AAA game development still feels hostile, and the feelings are substantiated by the International Game Developers Association Diversity Report. Women of color are by far the most educated in game development. Most educated, there's that terminology again. Yet hold the lowest percent of permanent positions and the lowest percent of managerial roles. How does someone with no power make an impact in the company, the community, on the project? How far can rage carry a career in game dev? What a weird fucking talk. An absolute beginner's guide to design leadership, atmosphere in games, crafting experiences that feel alive, avoiding the yikes, a guide to working with sensitivity consultants, and we have a mishmash of gender specials with random pronouns. Do you have a great idea, but you're worried you might be getting something wrong or engaging in stereotypes? Maybe you want to create a diverse world, but need advice on how to do it. Are your characters from different backgrounds and have different experiences than the people working on your project? In this panel, our group of sensitivity and cultural consulting experts addresses when, how, and who to engage for consulting to level up your game and the benefits they can bring. They answer common questions and describe common pitfalls when hiring or not hiring for sensitivity consulting. We have budgeting, how to financially support your dream game project. Clock Out at 2. Clock Out at 2 is a narrative-driven 2D roguelike game that explores workplace trauma, resilience, and identity through the eyes of Celia, an Afro-Latina woman navigating corporate life, struggling against toxic office culture, microaggressions, and unseen pressures. Can you clock out at 2? I have to look up if there is a trailer for this game. I shouldn't be here. I can hardly breathe. Nothing will change. Presented by Borderless Studios. Powered by Melanated Game Kitchen. My family is falling apart! Hold on. They go real fast here. My family is falling apart. Can't you ever forget about work and think of your family? I'm only working this job because of family. My work is falling apart. Must be a cultural difference. Miss Darcy says, we've been having these cultural differences for the past several months now. We wouldn't oh fuck, it's so fast. It's so fast. We wouldn't want another visit to HR now. I can't believe he would do this. Hey babe, don't make such a fuss. It's not a good look. And then you can avoid neutral or harsh respond to the creepy office man. I told you time and time again, I'm not your babe. Your actions will be remembered. I'm falling apart. I'm losing. All because of that one incident. Can you clock out at 2? This is a game is about the anxiety of a Gen Z employee. I feel like if they have that much anxiety over an office job, they're just not able to work a job in general. That's kind of wild. Check the comments. Oh, they're not turned off. Thanks for watching. This looks so cool. Can't wait to watch Markiplier play it eventually. Woke. How is this the first comment? Bro cares about the skin color of the developer of the video game. The game is about fucking microaggressions. What do you mean? A strong atmosphere is a key component in making a game memorable. Feelings of awe, beauty, and mystery can be evoked through atmosphere alone, leaving a lasting impression on players. Atmosphere will be explored in the context of games through a theoretical and practical lens. Farfama will outline atmosphere through the topics of player, human embodiment, user interface, sound, game state, environmental design, narrative, VFX, and emergent atmosphere. Technical and non-technical examples from various games are examined to provide inspiration for enhancing the atmosphere in your projects. This poor fucking guy. This poor fucking guy actually wants to talk about something, like, in the game industry, and he's just surrounded by fucking ideological slop. I was like, based on where he is and also being a they-them, it makes me think that, like, maybe there's something I'm missing that he's going to bring up that's ideological slop in the talk, but at least from this blurb, it just sounds normal. Creating Within Fear, another they-them. This talk, Creating Within Fear, will share tips, stories, and ways artists can take actionable steps to inspire change in themselves and others. Sometimes you must get off your computer, put on your shoes, and be present in your community. And touch grass. Other times, you're being led to learn and understand the issues you care about. Being led to learn? What did she mean by this? Art and growth can be solitary experiences, as all levels of creative are prone to creating alone to share with a broader audience. To convey hope, rage, dreams, struggles, new ideas, fear, and grief as a response to an ever-changing environment. Do it scared, but not alone. Yeah, I feel like a lot of artists have been harassed for the way that they draw art on Twitter. Let's see, we have a creation within turbulence, strategies to foster creativity amidst difficulties. Another they, them. And then we have this, the screenshot from Master of the TDS. Decolonizing cozy games. What's so cozy about doing chores when you're at the center of the universe? Tristan J. Tarwater will delve into cozy games and how they uphold values of colonialism in their mechanics and narrative. Ah yes, colonialism is what makes you plant your garden and do the dishes. More than just being about vibes, cozy games project an idea of what is safe and rewarding for players and often promote values of capitalism by rewarding individualism and consumption. What makes them satisfying for many can also make things uncomfortable for marginalized people. By exploring and questioning this definition and values of cozy games and colonialism, we can make cozy games even cozier. Ah yes, developing a wild, untamed land a la Minecraft is colonialism. Truly, he is enlightened. And Master of the TDS also posted a couple more screenshots. 2 days ago, Tristan J. Tarwater of Sweet Baby Inc. gave a talk called Decolonizing Cozy Games. Here's what Sweet Baby Inc. people are teaching about cozy games. Farming, families, even the 4 seasons are framed as colonial baggage. One slide literally says there are so many white people. And the fix they point to is Tales of the Shire, a game SBI themselves worked on. You cannot make this stuff up. How the fuck are the seasons racist? There was an article, I want to say like around 2017, 2018, somewhere around there, where they were just like, oh God, what was it about? It was about how like going outside and like the outdoors are inherently racist and rooted in white supremacy because like white people can go mountain climbing and hiking and it's normal. But if a black person does it, it's abnormal, apparently. And I was like, what? I have never thought about anyone hiking or climbing in any sort of racial terms in my life, man. What the fuck? Why people of color often feel unsafe in the outdoors. Racism surrounds some of the most beautiful corners of this country. So we got this. We got racism and gatekeeping in the outdoors. Racism and gatekeeping. What is our relationship to whiteness? Do you use whiteness to police others? This is when BIPOC folks actively dissuade other BIPOC folks from taking up space and existing in outdoor spaces. Policing can look like criticizing others for wearing the wrong gear, talking behind each other's backs, judging others for their cultural expressions, shaming them for lack of experience or knowledge of technical outdoor skills. Do you hold environmental privilege? I was accepted into white outdoors culture because I was not a threat to the system. My brown skin is more acceptable compared to darker shades. My female identity, small size, and peppy personality disarms most people. I become a token, a palatable brown woman who is allowed in. If I don't disrupt the narratives that helped me get here, I am perpetuating the harm placed on my relatives. What am I even fucking reading, brother? Moving on. Outdoor recreation has historically excluded people of color. That's beginning to change. Thanks, CNN. Racism in the great outdoors, Oregon's natural spaces feel off limits to black people. Racism in the water! Access for all in outdoor recreation. I mean, you just gotta learn to swim. It's that easy. Black people in the outdoors, the racism gap to adventuring in the wild. There's a racism gap to just going out by yourself in the wilderness. Nature itself is racist. The trees, as they blow in the wind, will call you the N-word. Like, what? What am I reading? Nature gap, why outdoor spaces lack diversity and inclusion. And then, from the American Hiking Society, literal.org website. Racism in the outdoors resources. The American Hiking Society believes that the outdoors should be a place of healing and enjoyment for all. Our mission, empowering all to enjoy, share, and preserve the hiking experience, will never be fulfilled until systemic racism is erased and Black, Indigenous, and people of color are safe and welcome outside, have equitable access to quality natural spaces, and equitable employment and leadership opportunities in the outdoor industry. And they have a lot of reading material down here about supposed injustices and racism in the environment. I owe you an apology, Mother Nature. I wasn't familiar with your game. Decolonization and decoloniality? Coloniality? How do you pronounce that? Decolonization is often framed as an undoing of colonial influences and structures. It is also a creative process of imagining what cultures would look like if not disrupted by the exploitation of colonialism. Decoloniality and decolonialidad, the process and practice of rejecting Eurocentric ways of knowing and being. Coined by Annabelle Quiano, this concept acknowledges how different concepts of the cosmos influence knowledge acquisition, information storage and transfer, and the ideas of self. What? What am I reading? All you hear is colonoscopy. This feels like the mysticism gobbledygook that we make fun of in TikToks. Colonialism in cozy games where so many white people, the outside individual who saves the day, the land is there for the taking, corn and wheat make number go up. Is this bitch trying to say crops are colonialism? Does she not understand how like every single culture has survived? Like it might not have been wheat, You know, the Asians had rice. You can farm that in cozy games too, man. Like, what do they mean by this? And I like how the outside individual who saves the day is colonialism. How the fuck else are you going to be able to insert yourself as the main character of an RPG where you get to control all elements of the main character? Like, it's not like you're stepping into the shoes of an established character a la Titus from Final Fantasy X, right? You're like making an entirely new character that you can see yourself in. So it would make no sense if you were some sort of like embedded important part of the community that was already there. Spirituality is silly and straight up racism. You know, not for any other purpose. You know, like, not that I would buy it, but like, what cozy games practice straight up racism? You know, I have to see in order to condemn it. How can we decolonize cozy games? Well, we can start the process of decolonizing and practicing decoloniality by questioning ourselves and those we trust around us. For example, what does safety mean for the audience we are trying to reach? What mechanics, rewards, cultural touchstones, and character archetypes will we implement that will resonate with them? What is the relationship of the player character to the NPC community? And how can we handle this mechanically and narratively? How many generations of people are present at any time? How is time measured, and how does this play out mechanically and narratively? Games to check out: Fields of Mystria, Sea Salt Chronicles. How the fuck did they make an entire game out of the Globo Homo art style? This is literally the global homogenization corporate art style. How did they make an entire game out of it? What the fuck? Tales of the Shire, which is apparently the SBI game, and Wanderstop. And then a fun little thing that was found after looking through these couple of tweets from Master of the TDS. We had the Game Devs of Color Expo here. On August 6th, they put out their full schedule, and then they said, thanks to the support of the New York City Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment at Made in New York, Game Devs of Color Expo will award up to $15,000 in no-strings development grants to creators of color. Since 2019, Game Devs of Color Expo has awarded a total of $405,000 in grants to game creators of color. And my question was, I wonder if these are using taxpayer funds. And I have a link here. So this is the City of New York Executive Budget Fiscal Year 2026. Eric Adams, Mayor, a Mayor's Office of Management and Budget, blah, 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 blah. And this is 249 pages. And if I could figure out how to jump to page 192, the office's 2026 executive budget provides $23.5 million for the administration of the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment's 4 divisions: NYC Media, the Film Office, the Press Credentials Office, and the Creative Sector programs. So, these game devs of color are getting awarded taxpayer money to give race-based grants to people. That's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting. Susk. Massive wastes of money. Yeah. White people invented computers. I'm so pissed right now. You're not a lawyer, but that sounds hella illegal. Yeah, so was affirmative action, but how long did we have to deal with that? So was everything DEI related, but how hard are we having to fight back against that shit? But I thought this was all interesting information that Master of the TDS managed to dig up. I don't know if he's seen this tweet. I'm assuming he has, since this is like what he's been digging into. There was this case where someone was found hung from a tree, and I've been waiting for a bit more information on it. And we have cause of death revealed for black student found hanging from tree on college campus. Officials in Mississippi previously said there was no evidence to suggest DeMartravion or Trey Reed was physically attacked before his death. Authorities have released the results of an autopsy performed on Demartravian Trey Reed. Reed, 21, was found dead hanging from a tree on the campus of Delta State University in Cleveland, Mississippi on Monday, September 15th. The young man was a student at the school. The Cleveland Police Department announced a news release on Thursday, September 18th, that the autopsy determined Reed died by suicide. Police said the Mississippi State Medical Examiner's autopsy findings are consistent with the initial investigation, determining the cause of death to be hanging and the manner of death as suicide. Our thoughts and prayers remain with Reed's family and friends during this very difficult time, said Cleveland Police Chief Travis Tribble in a statement. We want to encourage anyone who is struggling to reach out for help. My condolences go out to the family of Trey Reed and all who knew and loved him, Mississippi Department of Public Safety Commissioner Sean Tyndall said in a statement. I also applaud the quick work by the Cleveland Police Department, the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, and Delta State University to bring closure to his family, and I condemn the rumors circulating regarding his death. Final toxicology results may take 2 to 4 weeks to be completed, police said. Police and lawyers for Reed's family did not immediately respond to people's requests for comment. Delta State's Director of Public Safety Mike Peeler previously said there was no evidence of foul play in connection with Reed's death. The Bolivar County Coroner's Office previously said in a statement that Reed did not suffer any lacerations, contusions, compound fractures, broken bones, or injuries consistent with an assault, according to the Clarion Ledger. At this time, there is no evidence to suggest the individual was physically attacked before his death. Concerns have been raised about the handling of this case. The family has challenged the autopsy results, and Colin Kaepernick's Know Your Rights Camp Autopsy Initiative will cover the cost of an independent autopsy, according to attorney Ben Crump, who is representing the family. I'm glad they mentioned Colin Kaepernick thing in here because Colin Kaepernick funds a second autopsy for Delta State student found hanging from tree. And that tweet is how I found out information that I didn't see in any news story until that tweet. So we'll go back to that in a second. Vanessa J. Jones, another lawyer representing Reed's family, said the Grenada County Sheriff's Department informed the family that Trey was found dead in his dorm room in his bed, according to the Mississippi Free Press. That's fucking weird. That's fucking strange. Why would the county sheriff's department say that he was found dead in his dorm room when he was hanging from a tree? That is suspicious. That is a very suspicious thing to say. I wonder if they have proof. Police initially told family of black student found on campus tree that he died in his dorm. Lawyers for the family claim police initially told the victim's family that he died in his dorm room. A student at Delta State University in Cleveland, Mississippi was found dead hanging from a tree. Vanessa J. Jones, an attorney representing Reed's family, said the Grenada County Sheriff's Office informed the family that Trey was found dead in his dorm room in his bed, according to the Mississippi Free Press. Oh my god, there's so many fucking links in here. Troy Reed's family calls for independent autopsy after he was found hanging in a tree. Police say video exists. The family of Demartravian Reed is seeking an independent autopsy following Delta State University student's death on Monday when his body was found hanging in a tree on campus. At a press event at Living Faith Miracle Temple Church of God in Christ in Grenada late Tuesday afternoon, Vanessa Jones of the Jones Law Firm, who's representing the Reed family, told the media that the family is still waiting for answers. Vanessa Jones criticized Delta State University and Bolivar County officials, telling the Mississippi Free Press that both had left the Reed family completely in the dark after the discovery of Trey Reed's body, failing to properly communicate with them in their darkest moment. The media, the lawyer said, knew about Trey's death before the family did. That's one of the reasons for the urgency of the press conference, because the family is getting all of their information secondhand through the news. And a confusing incident occurred the morning of Trey's death. The Grenada County Sheriff's Department arrived at Trey's family home at approximately 9:15 and informed the family that Trey was found dead in his dorm room in his bed. Not long after, the family would learn that Trey had died in the center of campus hanging from a tree. The day after the story was published, Grenada County Sheriff's Department Chief Deputy Ricky Williamson told the Mississippi Free Press in an interview that neither he nor his investigator, Sonja Willis, specified where he had been found when they informed the family of Trey Reed's death on Monday. Grenada, his childhood hometown, is located roughly an hour east of Cleveland, where he was studying at Delta State University. That was never the words that were said when they were notified of his death. Absolutely not. The conversation was that me and my investigator went there to the grandparents of Trey Reed, had them sit down on the porch, and we told them that we had been sent to notify them that Trey Reed had been found deceased at Delta State University, and that the DSU police chief was on the scene. I said, and I don't recall the exact wording, but that they didn't believe it had been done by anyone else, he continued. I handed them the note with the chief's name and the phone number and asked could we pray with them. We prayed, and as we were leaving, the grandmother asked, was he down on the floor? Was he by his bed? And I said, ma'am, I do not know. And that's when we walked away. So they're just lying about what the police said in order to try and twist this into a different narrative? Okay. It took me multiple sources to finally get to the actual meat of it. I'm so surprised. Yeah, I'm shocked, you know? Reed's grandfather, J.B. Reed, said the comment was made by a member of the Bolivar County Sheriff's Department, according to ABC affiliate WAPT. He added that the official he spoke with didn't even say possible suicide, he just said suicide. The family does not know exactly what happened on September 15th, 2025, Jones said, according to the outlet. We are seeking answers. When asked about the discrepancy about where Reed's body was found at a press conference on Wednesday, September 17th, Peeler said he did not have knowledge of any calls Reed's grandfather received. And I like how this is the grandfather saying it now. The grandfather said the comment was made by a member of the Bolivar County Sheriff's Department. Let me go back. The grandmother asked, was he down on the floor? Was he by his bed? So the grandparents were both together. The grandmother asked about the bed, and the deputy said they had no idea. Won't know if he was drugged until the toxicology. It'll be very interesting if toxicology shows that drugs were in play. The family does not know exactly what happened on September 15th, 2025, Jones said, according to the outlet. We are seeking answers. When asked about the discrepancy where Reed's body was found, Peeler said he did not have knowledge of any calls Reed's grandfather received. In a statement obtained by People, Crump said Reed was full of promise and warmth, deeply loved and respected by all who knew him. His family and the campus community deserves a full, independent investigation to uncover the truth about what happened, Crump stated. We cannot accept vague conclusions when so many questions remain. I stand with this family and I will lead a team of civil rights leaders and organizations in pursuing transparency and answers for Trey's family, he added, calling for a thorough and transparent investigation into Reed's death.
Cat raid. What the hell is this spicy cat raid?
Like, I do hope, right? Like, if there's any confusion, if there's any doubts, an independent investigation should typically help with that. But I thought it was interesting because I had seen this case being reported on for several days now, and it's been all about this one student. So when I saw this tweet about Colin Kaepernick funding for the second autopsy, this guy said, why not for the other victim? And this says, 2 men found hanging from trees in Mississippi on the same day. And I was like, there's no way. There's no way that there were 2 men found hanging in trees on the same campus on the same day, and yet every single news story about it only talks about the one black dude. So I looked it up because I'm not going to believe a source from Where Is the Buzz. Police and private death investigations ongoing for 2 men found dead and hanging in Mississippi. Multiple investigations are ongoing this week in Mississippi. On Monday, September 15th, 2 men were found dead hanging from trees just hours apart. Demartravian Trey Reed, 21, of Grenada, was found early in the day on the Delta State University campus in Cleveland. The young black man was a student, and investigators initially ruled his death as suicide. An autopsy report from the state says the same. The family has doubts and is pursuing a second autopsy and carrying out a private investigation. Corey Zukatskis, 36, of Brandon, was later found in the day near a Vicksburg casino. Okay, so it wasn't the same place. I thought they were on the same campus. Just in Mississippi, but in similar death situation. Not same campus. Corey Zukatskis, 36, of Brandon, was found later in the day near a Vicksburg casino. Police are still investigating his death, and relatively few details have been released. Investigators say misinformation about both men is spreading online fast, including what the Bolivar County coroner described as inaccuracies about Reed's limbs being broken. Many people have also shared photos of the wrong Corey Zukatskis on social media. So who knows if this is even the right picture of the guy, because he has had zero media coverage as far as I can tell. Both cases have drawn national attention from civil rights organizations. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People has referred to Reed's death as a lynching. That concern is resounding across the internet as many note the state's history with violence. The Southern Poverty Law Center wants increased scrutiny and thorough investigations for both men. Here's what we know so far about the hanged men and what police have said about their cases and what are the next steps we can expect in both death investigations. Mississippi isn't exactly a small place. It's not. But it's still interesting that there happened to be 2 hangings on the same day. Only one seemed to have gotten attention. When did this become a lynching? What is wrong with them? I don't know, man. Police and the university have identified Dimar Travian Trey Reed, 21, of Grenada, as the black man found deceased early Monday. His body was hanging from a tree near the pickleball courts and the Court of Governors dormitories. In a statement released via their attorney, Vanessa Jones, his family said Reed was joyful and loving. The Clarion Ledger normally does not reveal the names of those who die via suicide, but the University of 2700 announced the name in a public setting. Delta State University Police Chief Michael Peeler said during a news conference on September 15th that Reed died by suicide and there was no evidence of foul play. The Bolivar County Coroner's Office, Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, Bolivar County Sheriff's Office, and Cleveland Police Department also assisted with the investigation. Reed's body was sent to the Mississippi State Crime Lab for an autopsy, and Peeler said it was carried out the morning of September 17th. Results were to be discussed with the emergency contacts Reed had left on file with DSU before being announced publicly. On September 18th, the Mississippi State Medical Examiner announced autopsy finding consistent with hanging and no foul play. Findings were consistent with the initial investigation determining the cause of death to be hanging and the manner of death as suicide. Final toxicology results are pending and may take 2 to 4 weeks to complete. Posts on social media quickly spread early in the week, and some made specific claims that Reed had broken legs and/or arms and other defensive wounds that would make hanging himself impossible. The coroner's office quickly said that that's not true. At this current time, we're conducting a thorough death investigation based on the preliminary examination. We can confirm that the deceased did not suffer any lacerations, contusions, compound fractures, broken bones, or injuries consistent with an assault. At this time, there is no evidence to suggest the individual was physically attacked before his death. During a news conference on September 16th, Jones said her firm is representing Reed's family and is initiating its own investigation into his death, beginning with an independent autopsy. We will seek answers independently from Delta State University and from the coroner's office, and if need be, independent from the state coroner's office, because we need answers as to what happened to Trey Reed. Were there cameras? There should have been cameras at the university that could easily enlighten us as to what happened in the early morning of September 15th, 2025. That's a good point. Where are the security camera footages? Civil rights attorney Ben Crump said on September 16th that he was retained by Reed's family. He noted students and relatives have questions that need to be answered, and he plans to work with a number of civil rights organizations to conduct a thorough and transparent investigation. On September 17th, the university president said that they plan to cooperate with all investigations and has been in regular contact with the emergency contacts that Reed chose, though that does not account for all of Reed's family. There are videos, Peeler said September 17th, in the hands of the Cleveland Police Department officers who are investigating. Crump is demanding copies as a part of the family's investigation. On September 19th, Crump announced that the Colin Kaepernick Know Your Rights Camp Autopsy Initiative will fund an independent autopsy for Reed's family. They'll work to complete it as soon as Mississippi releases the body. Trey's death evoked the collective memory of a community that has suffered a historic wound over many, many years and many, many deaths. Peace will only come by getting the truth. We thank Colin Kaepernick for supporting this grieving family and the cause of justice and truth. Is Reed's death tied to the man also found hanging in Vicksburg? Cody Zakotskis, 36, of Brandon, was also found dead hanging from a tree around 1:30 p.m. September 15th in Vicksburg, about 2 hours away from the DSU campus. That's actually not that far. Zakotskis was discovered in a wooded area near Ameristar Casino. He is described as a white male who was homeless, and his body was sent to the Mississippi State Crime Lab for autopsy. Police don't believe the deaths are related. On September 19th, Captain Curtis Judge with VPD said the autopsy results weren't back yet, and he did not have an estimate of when they might be ready. U.S. Rep. Benny Thompson wants federal investigations. He's a Democrat representative in Mississippi, and he said he called Reed's death a heartbreaking tragedy. He said he's spoken with Reed's family and wants them to get a full, transparent investigation. I'm calling for a full federal investigation into his death, and the FBI has the tools and experience necessary to conduct a thorough and unbiased inquiry. The time is of the essence. We must leave no stone unturned. Mississippi's history of racial violence against African Americans cannot be ignored, and our community deserves both truth and accountability. Jackson FBI Public Affairs Officer Marsha Lawson told the Clarion Ledger via email September 17th that the agency is aware of the incident in Cleveland and are in regular contact with local authorities on the case. If, during the course of local investigation, information comes to light of a potential federal violation, the FBI is prepared to investigate. Delta State University is in Cleveland, Mississippi, near the Arkansas state line, more than 2,600 600 students enrolled in the 2024-25 school year. Of those, about 42% are black, according to the university. Delta State holds a vigil for Reed. Students in the Delta State community gathered to remember Reed. The loss of Trey Reed has been and continues to be devastating for the Delta State community. Delta State University President Dan Enos said, are there counseling services for students available? I like how this article was supposed to talk about both of the deaths, and like 95% of the article is just about the one, and we have like this one little section about the other death. Kind of sad that 2 men die via hanging and the media immediately says the black one was lynched and ignore the white one. It shows how fucked everything is, yeah? It shows how fucked reporting is and how they want to keep fermenting this sort of like divisive rhetoric between everyone. We have Hungary has criminalized assistance to illegal migrants, prohibiting aid, food, and legal support under its new Stop Soros law. Orban is taking a stand against globalist migration agendas.
European leaders in favor of a restrictive migration policy are gathering in Budapest today for a meeting of minds. It follows yesterday's vote in Hungary to stop Soros. That's a series of laws that criminalize any individual or group who help asylum seekers, including NGOs. Well, the move defies the EU and human rights groups. Amongst those at the meeting will be Austrian Chancellor Sebastian Kurz, an immigration hardliner, as well as Hungarian leader Viktor Orban. And MPs also passed an amendment saying, and quote, alien population cannot settle in Hungary, outlawing EU attempts to relocate asylum seekers from Italy and Greece. Well, joining us from Paris now is Dutch journalist Stefan de Vries. Stefan, this is...
I feel like this is pretty based of Hungary. I have heard quite a lot of nice things out of Hungary's ruling body since COVID, you know? Fun fact, we, Hungary, are still taking in tens of thousands of foreign workers that pay less tax. Well, that should also probably be stopped. Never let the facts get in the way of the agenda.
Again, another complicated topic. Why is there so much support on tightening restrictions on asylum in Hungary?
Well, Viktor Orban sees himself as the defender of Christian Europe, as the protector, as a perceived Muslim invasion. And this rhetoric brought him a crushing victory in the last elections in April. He won a 2/3 majority in the parliament. And, well, we've seen that in other countries as well. Being
a perceived invasion, by the way.
Tough on immigration attracts voters. We've seen it in Italy, in Austria and other EU member states. And the Stop Soros campaign slogan was a very popular one. Now, George Soros is seen as the person who is organizing this imaginary foreign invasion, because if you look at the numbers, Hungary has actually one of the lowest immigration rates of the whole European Union. But George Soros is seen as the personification of this invasion. And the fact that Soros is Hungarian, well, it probably really bothers Orban, who sees...
I did not know that Soros was Hungarian. That's new information to me. That's interesting. Imaginary, by the way.
Sees Soros as some traitor of his country, and that may be an explanation why this Stop Soros bill was voted by such a large majority yesterday in Budapest.
Obviously, human rights groups obviously are not going to be happy with this. What can they do? What will their response be to this?
Well, of course, they are very disappointed and even upset by this new rule. Their hope, of course, is the European Union. The Council of Europe, which is the continent's leading human rights institution, is currently reviewing the bill. They had asked the Hungarians to wait with the vote, but Budapest decided to ignore this call. But it may well be that this bill is not respecting any European laws. I think later today the European Commission will issue a reaction to what's happening now in Budapest. But for the moment, the human rights organizations, well, they really have to comply with the new rules because they risk a prison sentence of for a 1 year if they help illegal immigrants to apply for asylum. So the only hope now is the European Commission and the Council of Europe. And I think later today we will have reactions from Brussels and probably also a warning to Viktor Orban.
Yeah, but Stefan, it's not the first warning. The EU has already said before Hungary, you cannot do this, but Hungary went ahead and did it. So will that change?
Orban was like, yeah, I don't give a shit anymore.
Anything? Will the EU's reaction change anything?
You're absolutely right. Viktor Orban has been defying the European Union for many years now, and we've seen that Brussels is basically, well, they can't do anything. They can threaten. We are seeing the same thing with Poland. They are, of course, trying to get Poland on track because they are not respecting, according to Brussels, the basic rules of a law society. So
the basic rules of law of society. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Hungary just doesn't want to follow whatever batshit shit the EU wants them to. You know. If they help illegal immigrants apply for asylum, interesting. Should be 10 years. It's fucking based, honestly. Poland doesn't want to be the first country invaded this time.
They can threaten, but what can they do? There is a procedure to exclude the European member states, but this has never been used in the history of Europe, and it would be very difficult because it's very unpopular, especially now in these times that populist parties are gaining more and more votes. So yeah, the European Union can yell, they can shout, but at the end, it's Viktor Orban who wins.
And very briefly, Stefan, what's interesting is, again, we're going to have this summit, and Hungary will be in the midst of all those leaders. What do you expect from that?
Well, not much. I think the agreement will be that Hungary should respect European law, that the European Commission will look into it. But more importantly, there's another extra mini summit this weekend in Brussels with Italy, Germany, the Netherlands, a number of other countries on the issue. So we see that the migrant issue is really, well, we've talked about this many times this week already, is one of the most urgent this week. And it really doesn't, it's not logical because, as we've seen, the numbers are down. There are actually very few immigrants coming to Europe now. And even in Hungary, there are currently around 3,000 refugees living in Hungary on a population of 10 million. So there's a huge difference between reality and perception, and it will be the task of the European politicians to
I don't know about them numbers, but I remember during the peak of the migrant crisis, Hungary was like, yeah, we're going to build a border wall, and we're going to have armed guards stand at the border wall. And I'm pretty sure Poland also did something similar. Please correct me if I'm misremembering. Orban was also shouted down by the EU for seeking peace talks between Ukraine and Russia without talking to the EU first. You don't trust the EU? And I remember during COVID, Orban gave himself absolute powers. So if he wanted to, he could have become a dictator at that point in time. And when he gave himself absolute powers, a lot of people in the EU were freaking out that that is exactly what he was going to do. That once you give a ruler absolute power, they're not going to give up that power later. And he gave up that power later. He was like, yeah, I don't need this anymore, so let's get back to business as usual.
Explain that this gap is not real, but it will be very difficult since the populists are so popular.
Yeah, but what will be interesting is to watch the behind the scenes in those summits. Thank you very much, Stefan de Vries.
But I thought that was very interesting. That was interesting that Hungary is like, yeah, we're just going to criminalize offering any kind of aid to illegal migrants. Get the fuck out, NGOs. We're sick of you. Based Hungary. I don't know too much about Orban himself or about Hungary's politics in general. But ever since the migrant crisis, I have heard quite a few based things coming out of there.